Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Diablo and Diablo's builds. Diablo's received a lot of changes, but they're all been rather light. He's received some nerfs to things like Life Leech and the auto attack build. Diabolical Momentum no longer works with your W, it's only your Q and your E. They changed Feast on Fear to where it heals 2% less, but it heals initially a little bit more. They also nerfed Sacrificial Souls down by 5 initially and 10 if you're at full souls. So there's been a lot of nerfs. There's also been a lot of buffs to W build, where Hellfire stacks faster, Debilitating Flame stacks faster. Hellfire's bonus damage has not only been added, but also buffed after it's been added. And so W builds received a lot of buffs, which has left a lot of people wondering, well, where do you put Diablo, and what builds do you even run with him anymore? Diablo's been a hero that's been in the competitive environment since basically he's released. Diablo's always been used in the highest levels of competitive. Even after they did his rework, he was still popular with W Breath build. After W Breath build, we saw the Europeans playing him more in Q build. Then we saw the buffs to auto attack build, and we saw like the in-between seasons using auto attack build a lot more. And now with all these nerfs and buffs and adjustments, we're kind of left with a lot of people wondering where he fits. So in the background is going to be the games from the latest open division. It was an open house for CCL that was trying to be like a player spotlight for coordinated play. So all of the players that were open to be drafted for CCL could then find a team and play. This is the grand finals of that event. And this is my pal Vince playing for the team ACA, or Anti-Clown Association, which is also a Storm Division team. So you can check out their team with Storm Division. There's only one roster change compared to from their Storm Division team to this this open team. So before we get too far into the different builds, I do want to say that I've got a teeny bit of a shout out. I've got two little shout outs that I'll do really quickly, and then we'll get back into this game. The first shout out is from CCS. So CCS is a Discord, it's a community organization ran by a team called Can't Counterpick Stupid, and that's where the name CCS comes from. Well, CCS was an organization that was looking to be an org for CCL. They didn't get that opportunity, but they were like, you know what? Let's do some cool stuff anyways. So they run a lot of awesome events. So let me pull this up really quick, and there will be a link to their Discord down below. And so they have the CCS Open House. They've got CCS Development Days. They've got Road to Nexomania, which Nexomania is a tournament that they run outside of NGS. So while NGS is kind of off season, you can join a Nexomania team to still kind of show that you're there, maybe get picked up by an NGS team, and it's just a really cool event. They also do development days, which they'll bring in a bunch of coaches. People like they had Simplicity had a couple coaches, Wildheart had a couple coaches all come in and train different things, and then again more Road to Nexomania and more Nexomania coming out in June. So this is the calendar. April they've got a couple events. May they've got a few events. June they've got a few events. So click the link in the description to get an idea about their next events, join their Discord, and kind of go from there. The second shout out that I was going to add really quick, I do have a Patreon. I don't push it very often. I'll probably push it this video and potentially the next patch notes video, and that's about it. So in my Patreon, I have 2 tiers, and that's it for right now. I may end up adding more later. One, you get to be a Titan. Titans have access to all of the replays and any extra coaching material, and you'll get a special chat, which I check every single day if you want to ask random questions. The second tier is a little bit more than that, but you get to send in 1 replay per month, and I will go through, watch your replay, I will record over it, and I will send you a private video so that you can then learn from that replay. All the Titans and Titan Pluses have access to all the other Titan Pluses replays unless they've specifically asked for them not to be available. So you can learn from people playing your hero, and you can also learn from different map strategies and different ranks. It's pretty cool, and that's it for my 2 shoutouts. So there should be a link down below for the CCS Discord and a link down below for my Patreon. Now that we're past all of that boring stuff, and I apologize, guys, I don't normally do ad reads, but I figured I would just do a couple since I haven't done any in a long time. Let's talk about Diablo. So Diablo has 3 basic builds. He has Q build, W build, and auto attack build. The premise between Q build is that you're going to take any one of these talents. Level 4, you're going to take either Soul to the Flame if you want a safer Q build, or Sacrificial Soul if you want a more all-in Q build. Level 7, most people go Malevolence if they want a higher burst damage Q build, or Diabolic Momentum if they want a higher utility or CC Q build. And then they go into Apocalypse, is very popular in Q build because you can combo by just using your ult and your Q. Level 13, you go Devastating Charge, more damage on your Q. And level 16, we go Domination. Level 20, we go Hellgate. That's Q build. The basic idea of Q build is you're going to get these huge charges that are going to get a lot of damage, stun the right targets, and get a lot of value. The downside with Q build is that it's all in. You go in and you basically either get a lot of work done or your team bombs. And so with Joanna, you can kind of go in, gauge the fight, and then back out with your trait. Well, you don't have that with Diablo, so that's the downside. A lot of people in the competitive environment like to switch Sacrificial Soul down to Soul of the Flame. That way it's a little bit more consistent. You can kind of feel the fight while throwing W's to heal yourself back up and get your souls. And then if the fight seems good, you're going to charge in. And if the fight doesn't seem good, then you leave and you didn't really commit anything. Where Sacrificial Soul requires you to charge in just to get your souls, and you don't have a lot of extra sustain. So that's Q build. Q build gained a lot of popularity with tanks like Lauber, who would make these crazy plays in Europe and land these insane kills by just having a single person on his team follow him up. Now, if we get away from Q build, we go to auto attack build, which was the second most popular build up until this latest nerf. Auto attack build almost required Feast on Fear because you'd have such a low cooldown on your flip that you would be able to have just a constant stream of healing going the entire time. Level 4, you would always take the auto attack talent. This was basically what made the build function. You would get souls by auto attacking enemy heroes, and when you got to full souls, you would heal for 4% of your health. Now it's 3.5%, so it's a little bit lower than it used to be, but it's still a pretty good amount of healing, and the build still works. It's just not as difficult to kill as it was before. Level 7, you generally took Diabolical Momentum because Malevolence only held a couple charges and your attack speed would be really fast. So you would use that fast attack speed to lower the cooldown of your abilities and continuously throw more and more abilities. That being said, we also go into, and look at this Soul Shield, by the way. Literally eats everything that Gazlo had to offer, everything that Li Ming had to offer, and he's still sat at like 80% health. It's crazy. This talent is nuts, by the way. And then APOC combo onto Gazlo and dead. So if you guys are not sure about how APOC combos work, you fire off APOC. APOC then takes 1.75 seconds before the stun goes off, so you have time to charge someone and flip them back onto the APOC. It's really good if you're engaging where the enemies are nearby, and it's one thing that Vince is actually great at. Yes, he drafted Diablo so that he can use APOC with Leyline, but he's actually really good at running APOC with just on his own as long as his team is nearby. He's great at doing those APOC combos. One of the mistakes I see with a lot of Diablo players is they will engage with an APOC combo, and it'll be a really clean APOC combo. The problem is they'll do it a little too far away from their team doesn't follow up, the enemy gets stunned for like 2.5 seconds straight, and then just walks away. So making sure that your team's nearby is pretty big. That being said, continuing on auto attack build, we go into Cruelty, which is when the build really comes online. You get that 100% more attack speed, and you can basically lock down one target at a time, making it one of the best peeling builds as far as a tank goes in the game. And then we go to level 16, where there's a lot of different options in auto attack build. All 3 are viable, but primarily Domination and Nightmare is used. If you need to peel more, Nightmare. If you need to engage more, Domination. And then we go into level 20. Auto attack build generally just takes Hellgate along with Q build because of the combo potential and the playmaking potential that you have. Finally, we go into W build. All the buffs that W build has had, the old W build is pretty straightforward. Whatever feels the best at level 1, W talents at 4, 7, 13, 16, and at level 10, you go Lightning Breath, and level 20, you go Hellstorm. You can go Hellgate, but most people generally go Hellstorm. That is the W build. Now, the W build kind of lost some popularity purely because when auto attack build came out, people were kind of reminded of what Diablo could do. He could engage from really far away. He can stun for a long period of time, especially on a single target. And so Q build gained a lot of popularity again. Auto attack build gained a lot of popularity again. And W build kind of fell off. Well, W build with all the buffs is kind of back a little bit. You don't need to go full W build. This combo was off by just a second. And again, this is the finals of a major event. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of nerves. And I definitely think that there's mistakes that are made by a lot of the players in here. But for the most part, this team right here is absolutely dominant, both in this and in Storm Division. With that being said, let's talk about W build for a second and how it works. I've done guides on all of these builds, and I love this play. I also love how fast Pirate looked to countering this play with a stun. So what Vince did here was he pushed a minion so that he could get closer to the target that he actually wanted. He flipped the target towards his team, but an amazing stun by Pirate made it to where he was able to peel off that great engage. You guys can learn a lot by watching high-level Diablo play, and unfortunately we haven't seen a ton of high-level Diablo play just because he hasn't been played as often. I mean, he's being used a lot in Masters Clash, but I was never given the replays to Masters Clash, so that's just unfortunate. But I'll be able to get all the replays from CCL when it starts back up, so I'm pretty excited about that. With all of that being said, though, W build. What makes W build work? So generally how W build works is you take Soul of the Flame to give yourself souls and extra healing. You take Eternal Flames to get resets on your W. Level 13 you go Hellfire to give yourself spell armor, or sorry, spell power. It also does damage around you, but it's rather low, and by the time you get all of those stacks, you're probably going to be away from the enemies. So that's kind of just gravy. I like it for Infernal Shrines because it's not just enemy heroes. You can just burn everything around you and steal a bunch of the objective. Level 16. W build generally takes Debilitating Flames or Domination. Both work out. Again, it comes down to, are you engaging or do you need your team to engage? It also comes down to, can you utilize this damage reduction? Level 20, again, generally Hellstorm. So why did he not go Breath this game? Well, he didn't go Breath because he had Leyline. And the whole gimmick this game was to utilize Leyline to set up for his Apocalypse so that when the Leyline ended, everyone immediately gets stunned by Apocalypse and then he can still make an engage and do whatever he wants. So it's okay to go into W build. Even though W build generally runs Breath, it's okay to still go with Apocalypse. And this is something that a lot of people get confused about Diablo. Yes, he has 3 primary builds: U build, W build, and auto attack build. But you don't need to overcommit into any of those. I think in Storm League, it's perfectly fine for you to commit to one of those because you're going with, I mean, you're just playing a small game of numbers, basically. You want the most efficient build, even if things don't go the way that you want them to go. But in the competitive environment, you can definitely shift things around and go W build with Leyline and get a lot more value off of the Leyline. So overall, that is that's the direction that he went in this. But there are other games he decides to go Lightning Breath. So the only reason that he's going APOC here is because he has that Leyline. And even then, there's a lot of times he goes Domination, and it's because he doesn't need to engage himself. He has the Medivh to engage for him. And so when I say, what build do we go on Diablo? I think in the Storm League environment, the solo queue environment, I think W build is probably going to be one of the strongest builds, and it's just going to be one of the most consistent builds. I would say that auto attack build is probably second. If you need to focus on peeling off one strong target for a long period of a fight, I think that I would say auto attack build would still be very strong in Storm League. But if you really want a lot of impact without having a coordinated team, I would say the W build with Flame Breath is going to be the major build for Storm League. If you're playing in a competitive environment, you can get away with just about anything. I mean, I still love this. 75 spell armor, lands the APOC combo, takes him out. His enemy team threw a bunch of their abilities at Diablo. He's sitting at half health where they've completely scared off the enemies and they're going to take this objective. Like, this is why Diablo is so strong. He literally can eat all the damage from the enemy and not care at all and still lead to kills. So this is, I mean, this is basically Diablo. Now, with that being said, the builds you go really depend, but if you are in the competitive environment, I would recommend playing around with W build and Q build, not necessarily auto attack build. I think in the competitive environment, auto attack build loses a lot of value because fights tend to happen faster, and you don't want to spend a lot of time just sitting auto attacking because you're going to get CC'd a lot. And in the competitive environment, more and more people draft CC. So if you're in Storm League, I would recommend auto attack build and W build, and if you're in competitive, I would recommend Q build and W build. You can definitely make adjustments to these based on what your team needs. Don't think that you're stuck in any of those builds just because you let's say the build recommends Feast on Fear, Devil's Due. Look at Soul Shield seriously. This talent is very good. If you're at 100 souls, you get 75 spell armor for 4 seconds, and every time you damage an enemy hero, you reduce this cooldown by 1 second. And this is a really powerful talent because of how often you can throw out abilities, especially with the resets here. W build is especially good with Soul Shield because you're going to be getting resets on your W, which it fires off a potential of 10 damage on a single target. So against a team, I mean, against 5 people firing off 5 shots and then having 5 shots return, you can complete this and get your cooldown off of a single W, but also resetting it and throwing 3 Ws per fight, plus the extra damage per second around you. This could have almost no cooldown during chaotic fights, which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, generally this build is ran with Lightning Breath, but you definitely don't need to run it with Lightning Breath, as you can see. And again, he just pops that spell armor, throws an APOC out, lands a pretty good APOC. Great knockback coming out from Heavy, able to prevent the kill. Throws out a W, breaks Kelsier out of the cocoon. And now they just look to approach, and this is what they end up going with. We've got Deathwing going in. He's reduced Deathwing's damage already with Debilitating Flames, and a lot of the other members, we can see that damage reduction on them. He's just doing his best to reduce their damage. And again, he didn't need to take the Engage talent with Domination. He took Debilitating Flames because they already had the Engage they wanted. So he can just slow them and reduce their damage, and that's all that he needs to do. And it's going to be pretty easy for him to finish up this game. So I don't need to go too much into these builds. Again, I've had videos about W build with Diablo, and it's only been buffed since my videos, but the playstyle still seems pretty similar. I've done videos about, I think I've done videos about Q build with Lauber, and I did videos about auto attack build, but it has been nerfed since my video. So you guys can look up any of those to learn the playstyles for all of those, but basically, let me just talk through W build because we're here. You generally will take Soul Shield. You can get away with either of the other talents. They're both great talents if you're fighting in waves, if you're fighting outside of waves. But otherwise, Soul Shield's always good just because the amount of damage and the amounts of procs you're going to get off of this. Level 4, W build always goes Souls to the Flame, allows you to get your souls back faster, and allows you to heal a lot more health. Generally, your W heals for 130% of the damage dealt to heroes. This is going to increase that amount to 260% at 100 souls, and it scales throughout the amount of souls that you have. We have Eternal Flames, which allows you to get resets whenever you stun the enemy without your ult. So basically, you stun them against a wall with your Q, you get a reset on your W. You flip them, you get a reset on your W. But it also just baseline reduces the cooldown of your W, which is pretty cool too. So This is all about getting more W's out, and also a kind of a burst at the start of the fight where you're going to get a lot of W's out, a lot of healing, a lot of spell power, and a lot of damage reduction. Level 10. In the competitive environment, Apocalypse should be picked when you have a way to set it up, or if you just need a hard engage where your team doesn't have that. Lightning Breath should be picked on maps where the enemies have to fight over a timed objective. A good example of this is like Infernal Shrines, where if they leave, you win like a fourth of the objective, and the rest of the objective is you're gonna be at a disadvantage for the rest of it. So at the start of a fight, you throw out a W, slam someone against a wall, throw out a W, flip someone, throw out a W, throw out a Lightning Breath, and you won the first half of the objective, and the enemies can't really fight back. Lightning Breath is also really good for the Unstoppable. I kind of use them as a pseudo Deathwing, where you can throw out your ult right before you're about to get comboed by an enemy team. You're unstoppable, you're scaring off the enemy backline, and that combo that they did just didn't work the way that they wanted it to because they didn't have the follow-up for it, because you were scaring everyone away. But what truly makes Lightning Breath work in W build is that you're going to have 30% more spell power, meaning that you basically have a nano boost on you while you're using Lightning Breath, and you create your own nano boost so you don't need to draft an Ana, which is awesome. So you get to basically set up your own nano boost and also slow everyone, reduce their damage, and do a lot of damage. And that's basically the gimmick of W build. For the rest of the builds, we're not really seeing it in this video, so I won't share too much about them, but I definitely have other videos for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You got to see some pretty cool tricks coming out from Diablo. You got to learn a little bit about what builds we're going to be seeing now and which ones I personally think are going to be very strong in the meta at the moment. And I think you guys could learn a lot from it. So if you guys have any questions, or if you want to check out some more videos, feel free to do that. Thank you all for watching, and again, links down below for CCS's Discord as well as my Patreon. Yeah, again, thank you guys.